When you think of powder coating, you may think of race car frames, suspension parts, and much more. But have you considered using powder coating as a way to reduce your cycle time on refinished wheels? Powder coating equipment is not prevalent at body shops, forcing most to rely on subcontractors to repair damaged wheels, often at the cost of jobs being delayed and quality potentially being sacrificed. Mick Ramis, Vice President of Auto Refinish Sales of Global Finishing Solutions, is here to talk about how body shops can easily add this profit-building and efficiency-boosting process to their operations. Mick, welcome today.
Thanks, Jay. Happy to be here.
Can you start us off by talking about the advantages of bringing powder coating in-house to a body shop?
Absolutely. So, one of the big advantages is shortening that lead time. So by keeping things in-house, you're controlling your own destiny in regard to that part of the repair process. Ultimately, that should lead to improved profitability. As you know, you're not paying someone else to do the work. Today it's getting harder and harder to find quality subcontractors. So we're hearing from the market that there's not only not quality subcontractors, but it's difficult to even find subcontractors. So by bringing that in-house, you kind of control the quality and the consistency of the product you're getting. And, finally, one of the other big reasons is you can attract new customers. So when you add this to your shop, it's another offering that you can bring to the market and can potentially open up other avenues for your shop to generate revenue.
What kind of other parts can a shop look to refinishing besides the typical wheels?
Yeah, so within the kind of the realm of our business, the sky's the limit as it relates to powder coating. But within our world, you'll see a lot of folks, once they kind of get that powder system and start to open up those doors, they head into motorcycle parts or custom suspensions. There's a lot of folks out there with side-by-sides or sand rails, and the more you can add to them, the more cool stuff you can do to them, the better they are, right? So you see a lot of guys that are starting to bring in parts that they want to customize their sand rail or their side-by-side, their mud truck. So you just start to see all these other kind of ancillary things that open up the door. Once the shop's made the investment in the equipment, that kind of overhead piece is there, and there's a lot of opportunity to generate additional customers and thus revenue using your powder system.
And I would have to think too that if I'm someone who has an off-road toy, for example, and I've had you refinish a few of my toys, well, if I happen to hit a deer with my truck or get in a fender bender that's repairable, I'm going to think of you first. I'm on top of mind, for my collision needs too.
Yeah, absolutely. We call that stickiness, right? You want to be sticky with your customers so they come back to you. And right, the more touches you can get with them, and it's really a way for a body shop to have a positive touch, because a lot of times collisions, as much as the body shop wants that to be a positive experience, it's a hard, after you've had a collision, that's a hard situation for that customer to be in. Where if you're making them custom parts for their sand rail or for their motorcycle, that's usually a touch point that they can have that's on the more positive side of the transaction.
For sure, the customer has more of that positive thoughts when they think of your name, your business name. What about so we can get quicker turnaround time with the powder coating? The curing is once it's out of the oven, it's ready to bolt on, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the great things about powder coating, right? Once it comes out of the oven, it's cured, it's ready to be, assembled. So, the world of supply chain issues that we live in today, having that in-house shortens that lead time. So, you get to control that portion of your repair. And so again, you bring it in-house, you can repair your wheels and get them back on the car, most times same day.
Is there a typical production process that a body shop would use? If I'm a painter, there are often times where I'm not watching paint dry, but I'm certainly waiting for it to dry or to cure. And is this something that I could fit in between my other jobs sometimes? Or how does that, is there a typical type of process that a body shop would use to add this to their offerings?
Absolutely. You know, we're equipment manufacturers, so we supply the equipment that is used in the process. You know, we would strongly recommend that you would connect with your powder supplier, just like your paint jobber. Sometimes they're the same folks depending on your market, but those are really the experts in process. But the reality is, yeah, you can fit it into your current process. It's not something that's going to take a whole lot of time. You know, I guess just to kind of hit on it, the typical process is you got to prep the metal. So you either got to strip it mechanically or chemically. You put it into the powder booth, you apply your powder, and from there you move it into the oven and it bakes. And like you said, Jay, once it's done with the bake, it's ready to be applied as soon as it, you know, cools down, which is relatively quickly, speaking to some of the other processes we're used to. So that's kind of, you know, that in a nutshell. Yeah, pretty cool.
What are the different types of equipment that you offer? I imagine you have offerings available from low volume shops on up through high volume shops, right? So what are the differences in how they're built, or not how they're built, but how the specifications and the price and that?
So GFS, Global Finishing Solutions, has, you know, multiple business units. So one of them is an industrial business unit that really focuses heavily on that powder market. So this is kind of us taking that expertise and applying it to a new market, which is a huge advantage for us and a huge advantage for the market, because you're getting a partner that has, you know, decades of experience in the powder industry. So for a typical shop, you would need a relatively small booth, and, you know, you can have 8x8, 10x10, 16x16, just depending on how many parts you want to put in there. And you know, if you're a shop that you want to powder coat a whole frame, we would have equipment for that. Or if you're just like, nope, I just want to do 4 sets of wheels, you know, then you know, a small 8x8 booth would be sufficient. Beyond that, within the powder, there's recovery and non-recovery. So that depends on if you want to recover your powder and reuse it. Most people do, because it's a nice way to save money on your powder costs. But if you don't want the expense of the powder recovery system, that's optional. And then beyond that, then there's the oven. So really the 3 key pieces you'll need will be some way to clean the metal. Like I said, it can be mechanical or chemical. That's usually a small blast booth or sandblast booth, or also a chemical dip or brush station. The powder booth itself, and then the oven. Generally speaking, you should be able to get all that equipment for somewhere around $100,000 to $125,000 installed. Now, the great caveat is sky's the limit, right? You said, can we do full? Yeah, we could do a fully automated conveyor system, you know. So if you really did have a high production shop, I do know that within the market, there are folks that focus solely on powder coating and powder coating wheels and things like that. And if that's the market you're in, we absolutely have the products to meet that need. But really for this, you know, the purpose of this interview and this discussion, we're really focused on, you know, a body shop that wants to bring it in-house, and not somebody that's solely focused on powder. But Global Finishing absolutely has the capability to do both.
Is there an average time to refinish a wheel once it's already been prepped with the stripper, to take it from color to clear coat and ready to bolt on?
Yeah, I'm probably not an expert as far as the time. Like I said, we're the process side. I don't want to speak for others' processes. We supply the equipment. So I'm gonna defer that question, Jay, to the experts. But as you said, it's in the realm of, you know, the time it would take to. It's less time than it would take to paint a panel. So just generally speaking, if you were to, you know, have to prime, base coat, and clear coat a panel, you would have your wheels done in a similar amount of time.
So if I'm a shop that's interested in adding this kind of equipment, Mick, how much room would I need? And is there a limitation on where I need to place this type of equipment?
So I guess I'll take that in 2 parts. So is there the space you need, which is kind of the great thing about powder, is it doesn't require a whole lot of space. As I said earlier, you could get as small as maybe an 8x8, you know, powder recovery booth, an oven of similar size. So, you know, you've got, you know, 16x8 of floor space taken up, whatever you need for your pre-treat and your cleansing, and that's all you need. So a relatively small footprint you can be operating in with powder in your facility. So knowing that most body shops, square footage is gold, right? Every foot counts. And so this is one of the neat things about powders. It's a way to add a revenue stream without having to add a bunch of, square footage. Special requirements. So, it is a powered piece of equipment. So yes, you'll have electrical requirements to make sure you got the right amps for your facility. The exhaust, so you will have probably some roof openings, or you're gonna have to go through a sidewall and exhaust, both for the oven and for the booth itself, as well as the gas requirements. So if you do a gas oven versus electric, you'd have requirements there. So yeah, there's a little bit. The way we would do that and help you out with that, though, is that GFS has distribution all across the US and Canada. So we have 35 distributors. We cover every geographic square inch of the US and Canada. We also have partners in Mexico that help us. So if you wanted it, we've got the folks that can help with that part of the installation and making sure that the equipment is set up and operating the way it should be.
But if I'm tight on space in my paint department and I may have room elsewhere in the facility, there's no reason why I can't place this somewhere else in the facility, right? It wouldn't have to be alongside the existing refinishing department.
Absolutely. Yep. It'll be standalone. It can be anywhere that you would have room. Even if you have another facility, you could put it there. It does not need to be necessarily in the paint department.
Is there a number one question that shops have when they're looking at buying such equipment?
Well, cost is usually the first, and then really the second one is all the different options with the powder recovery, and do they need to do it or do they not? We recommend it. I think that's kind of the biggest question that we get as far as the powder equipment itself, in addition to all the other pieces that come with it. So, how do I make this a complete process? If you're not familiar with it, what do I need to clean the metal? What do I need to do to pre-treat the metal? What do I need to do to bake the part once it's done? So it really comes down to kind of those things that, depending on the customer's level of expertise and experience with powder, those are the questions we most commonly see.
Mick, I want to thank you for joining us today and talking to our viewers about some of the benefits of powder coating. If they'd like more information, where should they go?
Well, you can always go to www.globalfinishing.com. So our website, that's a great source for information. We've got white papers, lots of downloads and things for you guys to look at, to learn more. And then come out and see us at SEMA. So we'll be out there in November. We'll have a booth. We'll have our powder coating experts there. If you've got specific questions there, we're going to have Mike Cook from our sales team there. He's been doing this for 30 plus years. He really knows it inside and out. So we'd encourage you to come out to Vegas and see us. Every year, it's one of the things we get lots of questions about while we're out there. There's lots of folks that want to know about powder. So we know there's a demand in the market, and we're excited to kind of push it out there and take it to the next level.
It will be here before we know it. So I look forward to seeing you out there, Mick.
All right.
All right.
Very good. Look forward to seeing you too, Jay.